Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about something important that I hope will be genuinely useful to all everyone who have asked for and still ask transcription of the keyboard part from my videos. Looking back, I regret including an invitation to request transcriptions in almost every video. Unfortunately, this message created false expectations and I'm truly sorry about that. But that's not the point today. The real topic is what are the actual skills you need when you have a transcription and want to turn it into music? Because the truth is that a transcription on its own teaches you nothing. It gives you the notes, it might give you other informations, but in the end is like a map, and the map is not the territory. A score is not the music. So I want to use this video to think about on what it actually takes to get from the score to a real musical performance. This won't be exhaustive, otherwise it will take days, but I want to lay out what, from my experience, are the main and the most fundamental skills you need to approach a transcription without it turning into a nightmare, and without which no meaningful result is possible. And I wanted to be honest with you from the very beginning. These skills are not optional extras to add later. They are the starting point. They are the foundations. If they aren't solid, no transcription, no matter how detailed or accurate, will save you. The first skill is being able to read music. Obvious, maybe, but stay with me. I'm not talking about being Franz Liszt or Martha Argerich, two of the finest side readers on history. I'm talking about being able to read a score without losing your mind over every single note. Ask yourself, when was the last time you read a piece of sheet music? How did you go? How long did it take you? Did it go smoothly or was it a complete disaster? In the context of learning a transcription to perform with a band, you don't need to be a perfect reader, and there's no expectation that you are, but you do need to be able to work through a score consciously and without constantly getting stuck. That requires consistent practice and an effective reading method. And there's a very specific mistake that I see constantly in keyboard players compensating for poor reading skills by playing from memory or by ear. Maybe it's happened to you. You already know the piece roguely, and the transcription was just there to fill in a few details. So, you half read and half remembered your way through it. Please stop doing that. When you're in front of a transcription, read it as if you had never heard that song before in your life, as if you had no idea what you were about to play. Trust completely what is written, note by note, measure by measure, without letting memory fill in the gaps for you. Because when you let memory take over, you're no longer reading, you're guessing. And guessing, in more cases, means making mistakes without even realizing it. Mixing reading with playing by ear almost always produce a level of approximation that hurts you, unless you have the partly perfectly internalized, in which case you wouldn't need the transcription. It's practically impossible to play without mistakes if you're not reading with a full attention. And just to be clear, I'm not dismissing playing by ear. Quite the opposite. I believe playing by ear is a fundamental skill, but it should not be mixed with the pure act of reading a score. You don't know how to improve your reading? My advice is simple. Read a new score every day, even just for a few minutes. You'll find countless ones online for free. So there's no excuse. Also choose piano or keyboard scores written on two staves. So you train treble and bass clef simultaneously. And above all, you train your eye to read both staves at once without getting lost. The second skill is equally fundamental, perhaps even more so, and is underestimated in an almost systematic way: transferring what you read onto the instrument. Listen carefully on this point, because this is where most people fall flat on their face. Recognizing note on the page is one thing. Transforming what you read into real sound with the right rhythm, the right dynamics, the right feel is something completely different. It's not an automatic step, it's not a given, and is probably the point where most musicians get stuck without even understanding why. I know musicians who can identify notes perfectly and who understand music theory very well, but the moment they sit down at the instrument, they freeze, because reading and playing what you read are two separate skills, and they need to be trained separately and together at the same time. If you neglect this skill, you can have the more precise transcription in the world in front of your eyes and still be unable to turn it into music. To go back to the metaphor, it's like having an incredibly detailed map but not knowing how to walk. This skill also needs to be built with consistency. The good news is that you work on it at the same time as you train your reading. Every time you sight read a score, play it directly on the instrument, and you'll be training both things at once. The third skill is sound management and sound design. Once the performance side is solid, you move on the tonal and the timbral dimension. Transcription rarely tell you which instrument or which preset to use, unless we are talking about acoustic piano, was a sound I hope everyone can recognize. This means having a trained ear, the ability to listen to a piece, understand what kind of sound is needed, and then find or build it on your gear. It's a very broad topic, and I definitely cover it in a dedicated video or series. But the point is this: even with a perfect transcription, if the sound is wrong, the performance doesn't work. Now I want to tell you something, and I want you to take it the right way. I stopped giving out transcriptions, and the reason is exactly this. Too often, these skills, which are the main ones, the fundamental ones, the ones without which everything else is worthless, are missing or not solid enough. And the result is that the transcription, instead of helping, ends up to getting in the way. It becomes a source of frustration, a document full of notes you can't turn into music, and in the end, it takes you further from your goal instead to closer to it. I say this because if you recognize yourself in what I've described, if you know your reading is approximate, if you know you struggle to transfer what you read onto the instrument, if you know that sound design is a territory you haven't really explored yet, then you need to be honest with yourself, because continuing to look for transcriptions without working on their foundations will get you nowhere. If you have seen yourself in what I said, I can help you. In the description, you'll find a link to book a free 30-minute call where we can talk about your specific problems and find a way to solve them together. It can be the first step toward understanding where you are and how you can get to where you want to be. So, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.